Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Wednesday morning, progressives, and welcome to the March 26, 2025 edition of Choose Views. It's what's that sports thing? It's March Madness. Sorry, guys. 773-763-9278. Catch us on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com and catch me on Substack. Dropped a new post yesterday. Catch all of our shows, of course, by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcast or Spotify. You can also check out the Choose Views short version and long versions over at the Heartland website. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Y'all got to check out Edwin on Saturday. He brings some stuff. Edwin's been around for a minute, so give him his due by checking out his show on Saturdays. The Big Picture, and of course our Out Chicago shows and other interviews. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. It's a place to be. And I just have to say this because before we came on the air, Henry and I go a week we don't see each other. He's Wednesday through Friday, and Devin is Monday and Tuesday. So, like with Devin as well, go almost a week. But, Henry is just busy. Our engineers are just super busy here. All of them, Lady B, Paul, the whole nine. And I don't want to miss Mike Mercado. They're always here. They're dedicated. They're just good people that work hard to make sure that we have good shows broadcast on our station. But Henry and I get talking about stuff and just kind of, forget oh, wait, we got 15 seconds. But what it made me realize is, as soon as this happened, I wrote something down that I want you guys to do. And I am probably the biggest culprit of this, of not doing it as often as I should, but I know that I need to, and I put it in my calendar, and, my wife reminds me, if there's somebody in your life that you haven't talked to in a little bit, let me do it this way. Because of the craziness that we're all, dealing with, I talked to a good friend of mine yesterday, Rico, if you're listening, shout out to you, brother, about the connectedness to people that you care about. And it's interesting that the first, Henry and I had this 30 seconds of, fast talking about the weekend. And the point I want to make is this. In this crazy time that we're in right now, as much as we are going to call our congressmen and women, and we're going to call our state legislatures, and we're going to call our senators and all that, the first thing that Henry and I did is check out how were our weekends. What did we do? Just sit down and make a list of 3, maybe 5 people that you haven't talked to in a few weeks or a couple of months. It could be family, could be friends, could be old business associates, could be your old roller skating buddy or your golf buddy or your, walk in the forest preserve buddy. Just sit down and think of 5 people whose voice you haven't heard in a while. For whatever reason. There's yours, just time. And in this craziness that we're going through, and the calls that you're making and the texts and the emails you're sending to our political leaders, take a moment today or before the end of the week. And I'm going to check in on you. I'm going to check in on you tomorrow and again on Friday to just reach out to them and say, hey, how you doing? And it may just be a text. Hey, I just was thinking about you. I have an old friend of mine, I shouldn't say old, a longtime friend of mine, mentor that, he and I are going to get together in 2 weeks for breakfast, and I haven't seen him in a while. And he's a mentor of mine professionally, personally, and even politically. And I'm, like I said, I'll start with me. I put the spotlight and mirror on me. Take a moment and just go, who haven't I talked to? Because, here's what happens. We all get in that same mode. I don't want to call it a rut because that sounds negative. But we get into that mode of talking to the people that we talk to. But think about folks you haven't talked to in a while and just go, oh, man, let me reach out to her or him. So, and Henry reminded me of it because we check with each other, like, how was your weekend? What'd you do? And so do that as much as you reach out to the people that we need to get to move and do more things politically and be more active. And as Kurt would say, we got to let them know that we're here. Kurt Mullet's going to be with us today at 7 o'clock in the 6:30 hour, so I got to keep it tight. Anita Pandior will be with us, the executive director of the Way Back In, and it's really going to be an interesting conversation. And then in the 7:30 hour, Representative Edgar Gonzalez Jr. Both of those people, Anita and Edgar, are going to be, Representative Gonzalez, are going to be speaking about gambling. And I want to talk about it from the perspective of how we make things better rather than sound like we're pointing the finger. So just to let you guys know that. But reach out to somebody. Reach out to 5 somebodies today. Don't let me and Henry be the only two that go, hey, how was your weekend? I'm just teasing. Also, make sure to check out Joan's show today. She's going to have with her, she'll be joined by Skye Perryman, president and CEO of Democracy Forward, Israel expert Shai Feldman of Brandeis University, and actor, comedian Michael Blackson, who performs March 27 at the Genesee Theater. That's Joan, of course, live, local, and progressive, 2 to 5 here on WCPT. Tonight, driving it home, of course, with Patty, we'll be talking to Elizabeth Thielen of the Are You Really Winning Illinois Gambling Helpline. We're really talking about that today. So make sure that you check out Patty today, driving it home, 5 to 7. Catch her on all the places, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And tomorrow on my show, we'll have Cliff Cash, who'll be back to talk about his March on Washington, his version, and bringing us some comedic relief, as well as our good friend Dan Summons, who's the director of Blessings in a Backpack, with a special guest as well. Make sure you are getting your ticket. Well, let me back up. I keep saying this, Henry. Tickets are sold out. There's no more. For our May 3rd anniversary of Max and Benny's restaurant in Northbrook. But we hope that you'll tune in that day and hear Hal Sparks, Scott Duff, Joan Esposito, Patty Vasquez, and I broadcast live from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. with special guests, and they are very special. Be sure to visit our heartlandsignal.com/anniversary site to see the archival audio and images. We're going to have some fun with it. Going to go back and go in the Wayback Machine with some pictures. So check out. You'll laugh at that. So I got to get some more pictures to our producers here. So I know he's going, yeah, Richard, you need to get us some more pictures. So I will get that squared away, just so that you know I'm paying attention. All right, guys, let's hit a couple of Choose Views news items, and then when we come back from the break, I want to talk about something that went down, and then we'll get ready for our guest. So, consumer confidence, Henry, is plummeting, related to the direction of where the U.S. economy is headed. It's hit a 12-year low, and that's unfortunate. The Conference Board's index for future expectations dropped almost 10 points in March. Levels below 80 often signal a recession, and we certainly don't need to see that. Meanwhile, a measure of how Americans feel about current conditions fell for a 4th straight month. The board said that written responses to their survey showed that concerns about inflation and the possibility of new tariffs are further stoking that the lowered expectations. And frankly, according to our article, are driving pessimism. Keeping it quick, colleges are on the upswing in some ways. College prep for higher enrollment, largest ever class of high school seniors. 3.9 million students are set to graduate just as colleges face major upheaval during a sweeping federal funds cut, according to the New York Times. To save money, many campuses are reducing services and implementing hiring freezes, which you talked about last week. There are concerns that the turmoil could stifle international student enrollment, a vital revenue source for colleges. Trump's efforts to dismantle the Department of Education have also put federal student loans and Pell Grants in limbo. And why would you do that? What President Obama said about cutting these programs doesn't make us any more competitive. Doge firings impact the job market. You think the amount of federal workers looking for work rose more than 50% just this year. We haven't even finished the first quarter, Henry. According to the Washington Post, an unprecedented spike in job searches seen during this presidential transition. While at least 24,000 probationary employees have been fired, more than half remain in limbo as the administration appeals to federal court ruling that found Doge terminations illegal. And with demand for white-collar professionals declining, the job search is particularly challenging for highly educated federal employees. But they are very competitive. They are very well educated, and they have great experience. So fingers crossed. And on a little bit of a bright note, big stars break Broadway records. You guys probably saw some of the clips of President Biden checking out some performances on Broadway. Denzel Washington made a point of recognizing President Biden and former First Lady Jill Biden. Broadway attendance has been up across the board recently. They're with no small thanks to some record-breaking boost from Hollywood notables. Earlier this month, Denzel Washington's revival of Othello broke the single-week Broadway record for a non-musical, amassing $2.8 million from 8 preview performances. That record didn't stand long, though. However, George Clooney's stage adaptation of the 2005 film Good Night and Good Luck, grossing $3.3 million from just 7 performances last week. Bottom line is, the folks are out and trying to get involved and take on some theater, take on some performances. And I'll just say this. If you know a local artist in your community that performs, go check him or her out. It's a good thing for them, but it's a good thing for your soul to see a live performance. Henry and I were talking about that because my wife and I had a chance to go see the legendary Bob James and saxophonist Dave Koz this past Saturday at the Studebaker Theater. And Bob James is 84, 85 years old. Still doing it, man. Still killing it, Henry. It was great. And it reminded me of how, as I said to Henry, how much we really can appreciate live performances and the interaction and all that. So it was great to see. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back. We're going to talk about a topic before we have our guest on. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. So I'm going to dive into 2 things real quickly, where we have a clip that we're going to try to squeeze. Oh, lordy. So Representative Jasmine Crockett made reference to Greg Abbott and this whole Hot Wheels thing. And I'm not going to go too far down the path. All I'm going to say is, from those who want to criticize her for making this comment about Greg Abbott, where was the vitriol for Donald Trump and him wanting to assault your daughters or your wives or your sisters or your mothers, depending? Where was the vitriol from the right about Donald Trump during the campaign in 2016, openly teasing a handicapped person? Y'all remember that? See, people have short memories. Y'all remember that? Or did you forget MAGA and right-wing media? And even some of those who are being punks in the center left. What about that? You remember? And I am doing the whataboutism for a moment because it's for a reason. I doubt that Jasmine Crockett spends her time running around talking about people who have any disabilities and then defending it without context. It's not right to do it, no matter in any way whatsoever. But I'm just getting after, in a WTF moment, where were you all who voted for the dude who openly teased and mocked a journalist who has a disability? So before you start pointing fingers at her about her comment about Greg Abbott, because the last time I checked, Jasmine Crockett, and I'm defending her, so I don't care what anybody says to me about it. I really don't care. I'm defending her work, her body of work. Okay? And I stand on that business because she's one of the people out there. This is what's happening, Henry, is it always? This is anything that's not perfectly stated by any loud voice. What are they going to do? They're going to attack that person. They're going to try to find a way to sliver in. And Jasmine Crockett has been standing on business. AOC has been standing on business. Bernie has been standing on business. Representative Lauren Underwood here in Illinois has been standing on business. And the list goes on. You know, the next thing you're going to hear out of somebody's mouth is Governor Pritzker is an anti-Semite, and he's Jewish. Watch. This is going to happen. So MAGA, those that are weak on the left, and mainstream media, you all can go kick rocks on this Representative Crockett thing, because you all could have run on and on and on and on and on Trump's teasing of a journalist and wanting to assault your daughters and other women in your life. And y'all still voted for that. So you get no favor from me on what Representative Crockett said. And to be honest with you, she was talking about the hot mess in Texas of this fool shipping human beings to another state. But y'all aren't saying a damn thing about that. Because you're going to say, oh, well, we got to keep the immigrants out. But if that's the case, then why did the Republicans get in the way of the bill that a bipartisan bill was agreed to by Congress? If you really gave a darn about, quote unquote, immigration or border crossings on the southern border. So I won't say don't get me started, because I already am. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we're going to try to squeeze in 2 clips. One of them is one that's poking fun. The other one is about somebody that got appropriately grilled at the hearing with regard to this. Henry, can you believe that? I used this example yesterday where I said that if Devin and I were throwing a party, I don't know if you're okay, we're throwing a surprise party for Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman and giving them an award coming into Chicago on May 3rd. And I just made this up. And the only people that were supposed to know about it were the hosts, me and Devin, and you guys as the engineers and the team. But suddenly, accidentally, Tom and Stephanie got plugged into the text or the email. That's on me and Devin. We can't blame you guys. Anyhow, I went down that path because I was trying to make a point about this just horrible, horrible leak. And people don't want to take it seriously because they're trying to run from it. But you can't see the visuals of this, but if you want it, we'll send it to you. But this is of Representative Jared Moskowitz and Representative Jamie Raskin yesterday. Being sarcastic and snarky, but making a point about the doo-doo show of the Republicans in the administration. So let's hit them with this, Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's always good, like when we have something that's bipartisan, to point it out, because it happens so little around here anymore. But rather than giving like a really big, long speech, I feel like I could just use this, and this will tell you that I think it's good, right? So like that's a fist, American flag, fire. So I'll just, from now on, when we do things where like we agree, I'll just hold this up rather than giving like a really big long speech. So job well done, guys.
Would the gentleman yield?
Sure, I'll yield.
But I'm not sure everybody recognizes the reference there. Would you explain where that comes from?
Yeah, so this is how when we're in like a chat with friends, right, where we're like having a casual chat about like where we're dropping missiles.
Are you talking about a public chat room?
Yeah, but like, and with friends, and we're just like, hamming about who we're going to bomb and all of that. But we agree. We fist American flag fire. So I'm holding this up. I think we could just keep the committee shorter if, like, when we agree, we just hold this up.
Yeah. No, I think you're supposed to have the flexed arm instead of the fist.
No, it was just it was just the fist. What signal chat are you in?
But
I was on Twitter.
If the gentleman would yield for an additional question,
sure.
But what happens if there are reporters who might be there for that?
Well, hopefully they support America, and that fire. It's fire.
So you're telling me we can't have a bipartisan conversation among members of the committee without a journalist being there?
Well, we can, but if you don't add them, if you don't want them to know.
And what if they just happen to show up somehow?
Well, that's because somebody added them. Oh, Lord have...
private, I made a comment about that, but I can't say it in the air. That was Representative Jared Moskowitz and Representative Jamie Raskin doing what they do. They were using their brain power and their senses of humor and creativity to make a point about the insane stupidity and irresponsibility of the Republicans that were part of this leak. And it brings me to laughter tears of how incompetent these people are. The ones that go on and on about DEI this, DEI that. But yet you got these mediocre folks that are putting our nation at danger by their slip-ups and then running from it. See, Henry, here's all they had to do. All they had to do was say, look, y'all, we messed up. I don't know how this happened. We'll figure it out. We made a mistake, and we're sorry. What is wrong with these people that they can't go, damn, Henry, we messed up. We messed up, y'all. Don't lose confidence in us. We already have. But we messed up, and this is something that shouldn't have happened. We'll do better. How powerful would that have been? As a progressive liberal Democrat, I would have said at least they admitted to it and they took responsibility. And the good in us as progressive liberal Democrats, many of us would have said, yeah, y'all are still stinky, but at least you took responsibility on this. So maggots, if you can't get in your elected folks behind on this, then you all are stinky too. But there's a senator who decided he wasn't going to have any of it. And his name is Angus King. And Angus had a few words for Miss Skunk Hair. I'm having a little fun this morning, too. Tulsi Gabbard. So Henry and I put together another clip for you that you'll check out right now.
Director Gabbard, I didn't intend to get into the Jeffrey Goldberg story, but something you said has sort of puzzled me. According to open source reporting at 11:44 on the morning of March 15th, Secretary Hegseth put into this group text a detailed operation plan, including targets, the weapons we were going to be using, attack sequences, and timing. And yet you've testified that nothing in that chain was classified. Wouldn't that be classified? What if that had been made public that morning before the attack took place?
Senator, I can attest to the fact that there were no classified or intelligence equities that were included in that chat group at any time.
So,
and I
so
defer,
the attack sequencing and timing and weapons and targets you don't consider should have been classified?
I defer to the Secretary of Defense and the National Security Council on that question.
Well, you're the head of the intelligence community. You're supposed to know about classifications. So your testimony very clearly today is that nothing was in that set of texts that were classified. I'll follow up on Senator Wyden's question. If that's the case, please release that whole text stream so that the public can have a view of what actually transpired on this discussion. It's hard for me to believe that targets and timing and weapons would not have been classified. Well, let me
Henry and I are in here shaking our head, guys. I'm sure you can see me on camera, but it's just like, come on. And she sat there with her arrogance, her privileged arrogance. Like, how dare you ask me that question? Now, I love how his immediate response was, she said, I deferred to, hold on a second, lady. You're supposed to be the hoity-toity. I know everything. You told us that all of our Democratic voices in this space of intelligence were trash, and you haven't been 60 days. MAGA, you all own this. I'm going to be very partisan in saying this. This is on y'all. You told us, progressive liberal Democrats, those that were supporting Biden-Harris and Walz, that we didn't know what the hell we were talking about, and that we were making all these mistakes, and that our leaders, our administrative people weren't getting the job done. It hasn't even been 60 days. And the garbage that you all are presenting the country with, the cuts to programs, social programs that are going to be part of the conversation that I'm going to have with our first guest. You all said all these things, and you went into the denial mode. No, we don't know about Project 2025. But here we are. And Hillary told y'all that this was going to happen, and Kamala told y'all this was going to happen. They line itemed those things, bullet pointed them for you. And you were too doggone arrogant and willfully ignorant to not listen. So this is on y'all. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk to one of our local executives who leads an organization that's important to just the safety and the growth and protection of our community. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. We're busy today, but we'll do our best to get to your calls. All right. Locally, as we try to bring you guys stories, groups, organizations that are handling things locally, but also they're part of our national conversation. And when I look at benefits being cut, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, I think about people who are in situations where that may be their only lifeline. And then I connect that to challenges that they may have medically or educationally, and most certainly when it comes to addictions. And with us this morning is the executive director of The Way Back In, none other than Anita Pandior. Good morning, Anita, and welcome to Choose Views.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Did I put a smile on your face this morning?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, it looks like a beautiful morning.
All right. I made you laugh right out of the gate. Anita, welcome to Choose Views. And I know that you have been one of those champions here in Chicago, specifically working with folks who've had and are dealing with the addiction of gambling, or dealing with the after effects of gambling as an addiction. I'd love it for you to take a moment, and I know we're going to be talking about this, and then we'll be talking with later in the show with Representative Gonzalez. But take a moment, if you can, and share a little bit about you, a little bit about your organization, and really what your primary mission is right now in this space.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for giving me that time to talk about it. So The Way Back In is a not-for-profit private organization here in the Chicagoland area who specializes in treating addiction. So we help people on their journey to recovery, both with substance use disorders and gambling use disorders. We started treating gambling use disorders in around 1999-2000 with the first pilot project with IDHS, or Illinois Department of Human Services, and a division of substance use prevention and recovery when, kind of the riverboats were starting and gambling was starting in the state of Illinois. So we do have a pretty good relationship with the state of Illinois, as Illinois would like to be a gambling-informed state, making sure that as access to gambling is growing, so access to education, prevention, and treatment. But we definitely need more of that prevention, the treatment, and just that general knowledge for people of what is gambling, what are gambling use disorders, and kind of just the risks and how to get help if you do need help.
So you mentioned something, and thank you for that. One of the things that I try to do on the show is bring light to current local issues that are really part of our national conversation. What happens here in Illinois is there's no state that's necessarily immune to this happening or being a concern, particularly when it comes to medical or science or health issues. And in this case, gambling is nothing that, the state of Illinois has a monopoly on. It's something that's a concern throughout the country. So if you could talk a little bit about that in terms of maybe the national issue, the national conversation around gambling as an addiction.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you are very correct, right? Illinois is not the only state. We often talk about how, Vegas and Nevada used to be kind of the only one, and then kind of like your benchmark of gambling and gambling growing within the United States and then Atlantic City. But it definitely now is on a national level. We have expanded gambling, so access to gambling is very widely available. And it isn't that gambling wasn't happening before, that people didn't have a gambling use disorder pre-legalization. We just know that the access of it and the social kind of acceptability of it has really grown. We see gambling as just kind of a normal social activity, and we often encourage it amongst each other, and we often don't protect our youth because we are often kind of looking at it as a benign issue. We're not seeing it as, this could lead to kind of any other problems down the road, such as mental health or addictions. And we do know, like you're saying, science, right? We have done a lot of research, and so on a national level, the National Council on Problem Gambling is extremely involved in that, in the national research, in prevention, in education, and knowing that this is not a small problem. And when we look at the statistics, right, the National Council reports 1% to 2% of persons in the nation being affected by gambling use disorder. In Illinois in 2020, when we did a prevalence study, it showed that 3.8% of people have a gambling use disorder, and another 7% are at risk. And I would like to also preface that study was only done with adults 21 and over. So we also know that there might be a population of people under 21 that we didn't even study.
Yeah.
So as you look at it in Illinois, you're looking at over like 1 million people. And we do, right? Like if you want to gamble, you can gamble anywhere. And the National Council is looking at what is there. And nationally, you point things out. In Illinois, at least there's funding available. Mm-hmm. On a national level, the National Council on Problem Gambling receives no federal funding for any research or any treatment. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Anita, so this is why when I talk about local issues or talk with someone that is a local leader on an issue, I tie it to the national piece, because one of the things that I never want us to do as a country, as a society, is to silo ourselves to the point where we feel like, well, that's only an issue there. And sometimes that gets us into trouble when it comes to what makes sense in terms of laws, what makes sense in terms of funding and support, because we think, oh, that's just over there, when in fact it's not. And gambling, to your point, and I love how you layered in, the age-old Las Vegas and Atlantic City, and those are the places. There's no gambling issues any place else in the country, when in fact it's growing some ways faster in the non-growing, quote, or the gambling capitals by the sheer fact that the access to gambling online and the access to gambling in terms of sports gambling and these different, online tools has made it everywhere. And that's got to be seriously troubling for you as a person that is an advocate of responsible gambling.
Yeah, as an advocate of responsible gambling and protections for people, it definitely has expanded. So you are correct, right? We look at some of these venues and we talk about like, oh, it's in this place or it's in that place, right? Kind of your meccas. But we look at Illinois and we know that the video gaming terminals, kind of the slot machines, have grown, where we have now as many slots in Illinois as we have in Vegas, if not more. Now, it's true that in Vegas it's kind of very concentrated, right? You have kind of the block or like the one main area, where here it's spread over a very large state. But we do know that it brings in significant funding. However, when we look at where this funding is coming from, it's coming from your local people, right? It's coming from that municipality. So it's not, coming from tourists overseas who might be visiting metropolitan, Illinois, or, kind of your smaller towns or any other place. So we do know that a lot of that funding is coming on the backs of people. who really might not be able to afford it or are hoping that this is kind of their way of raising revenue to kind of seek a better life. And we do know that that's not how gambling works. Gambling, for those who can gamble, for those who gamble responsibly, should be nothing more than entertainment, should be nothing more than a fun activity. It can never be a way to make money. And once we start looking at it as a way to make revenue and money, that's when we see a lot of problems emerging. And we see that a lot with our youth, those even under 21, but even those 21 through, kind of their mid-30s. And that is kind of our fastest growing population of clients that we see in treatment is young adult males kind of under 35 in sports betting. We're seeing a lot of that. And that's kind of our concerns when we are trying to look at additional online platforms, just because we're seeing how well-versed they are in technology, how good they are at just kind of that access, and the fact that they do feel like they can multitask throughout the day, right? I can still participate in life and gamble all the time, and that's really not possible.
Yeah.
So we do know that there's those risks to our youth. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm fascinated by this conversation because I look at both sides of it as best I can. And that's why I love the word that you use, the phrase as responsible gambling. And, from a social standpoint, you're approaching this as a social scientist, if you will. And I'm giving you that label, but that's no disrespect to you at all. So you're approaching this from a social scientist perspective and someone that's there to take care of people, both from a preventative and a treatment standpoint. Then there's the political side, which is the revenue that can come from it. And so I think the happy medium can be when we talk to legislators and then we talk to the medical, the social side like you, is the happy medium of responsible gambling. In my brain, when you gave the descriptives of one versus the other, I thought about when I've gone to Vegas or gone to a casino. I've set a limit literally, this is all I'm going to spend. When it's over, it's over. And then I walk away. But I'm going someplace with this question, the line of thinking.
Yeah.
Because I say to myself, that's all. I'm done. And when you said entertainment, that's when it hit me. I went, because I look at it as, oh, this is fun. This will be a fun little thing to do. It is entertainment, quote unquote. But I want to know from your experience, if we can't, not labeling anything or anyone, what is it that can get people addicted according and based on the science and the evidence that you have?
So a lot of addiction is based both in genetics, access, and kind of the environment we're in, and kind of sometimes we don't call them kind of addictive personalities anymore because that's like a very outdated term. Right. But sometimes that helps people understand, right? There's a person, each of us has their unique body chemistry and chemistry kind of, and when we are exposed to certain stimuli, everybody is triggered differently. And so for that percentage of persons who are kind of exposed to potential addictive behaviors and they have that chemistry and they have those genetics kind of lined up, they respond differently. And so for most of us, right, so that 90%, let's say in Illinois, you can go up, you can play some slots, you can gamble, you can go in and you can say, I'm going to be here for an hour, I'm going to spend $100, and maybe you're having a lot of fun and you're like, nah, you know what, I'll go to 120. But at that point, you're saying, I'm good. I'm tired. I need to either go home or I'm going to move on to the next activity or spend all my money. For persons who have either that risk factors or a gambling use disorders, they truly cannot stop. And it isn't because they have low willpower. It isn't because they're not praying enough. It's not because they're not good people. It is a biological chemical reactions in their brains that doesn't allow them to shut that off. And there truly is that belief that they feel like the next one they're going to win and they're going to make it big. And so often when we see even certain criminal behavior, such as embezzling, it isn't seen as embezzling by that person. They're truly believe that they're just borrowing the money, and they really have every intention of paying that money back. The problem is that we know how gambling works, and the fact is that you lose more than you win. That's how the industry makes $1 billion a year in, say, sports gambling. So we need to understand that persons who have gambling use disorders are ill, and it is a true chemical illness, just like anything else in our bodies. And you're right, we don't have to ban things, we don't have to stop things, because we're not there, right? Like gambling isn't going away, and gambling has been around since the beginning of humanity. Right. So we know that that's not going away. What we want to build in is those protections for persons who will need help. I mean, some of those people will ask questions like, oh, should we do this or ban this or get rid of them? I'm like, well, we're not getting rid of McDonald's or we're not banning bakeries. And yet we do know that there's, obesity epidemic and diabetes going around, right? So we need to educate each individual person. We need to make sure that people are well informed and are making informed decisions. And that if there is that need for help, it's available, and it isn't under the threat. Like I mentioned, on a national level, there is no funding for gambling, both research, education, or treatment. And then on a state level, year to year, we see kind of growth, but we're not necessarily seeing always that growth or that threat of like, well, maybe the money will be here, maybe it won't, where we would want to see kind of that assurance that if gambling venues grow, there's always going to be that preventative side.
Got it. Wow. Anita, that was a masterclass. I have to give you your props in that. I'm serious. I mean,
thank you.
Henry and I here in the studio were just going, wow, and I'm sure our audience, at least I hope our audience got that. Not an indictment of those who have the challenge, but a tool. We want to be a tool and a resource to help folks with any addiction. And when you layered over the McDonald's example, and then that was a masterclass. So kudos to you for being professional and sensitive, and I'm really proud to have you on to talk about it from that perspective, because just because there is an issue doesn't mean we get rid of something. We figure out what the issue is, and then we work toward fixing it so that we can do better. And that's something that I hope you're proud of, how you navigate that. I wanted to ask you a last question, kind of as we're wrapping up, or not a question, but go back to something you said earlier. You referenced gambling informed state. What does that look like, not only in Illinois, but for the country at large?
So for the country at large, I think we set our benchmark on the National Council on Problem Gambling. So as we're closing out March, we want to remember that March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month. And that was created, years ago in conjunction with kind of March Madness and the sheer volume of gambling that we know is going on, and that we know has been going on since way before sports betting was legal or decriminalized. So we do, it kind of was that awareness piece created by the National, just to make sure that people are getting both sides of the coin, if you will, right? And we want to kind of embrace it. So on a national level, there is that creation, as well as the pulling together all of the resources and making sure that the 1-800-GAMBLER, that 24/7 helpline, is available throughout the country. So it used to be different phone numbers in kind of different local regions, and it has been pulled together into one as a national number. So no matter where you are, if you call 1-800-GAMBLER, you will then be directed to your local state and the local state resources that you might need at that moment. And we do want to highlight that one because it is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is run by professional counselors. So persons who might be struggling and might have questions can call. But if you're in a crisis, you can also call, and they're available. They're also available in multiple languages. So that is always something that's really important to know. And that's been a big national push to make sure there's one number. On, kind of a grassroots smaller level here in Illinois, but also nationally, we are making sure that there is a preventative piece. When you see commercials, when you see billboards, that number is highlighted on all of them, so that it is, persons who might be triggered by and or aren't sure or just want more information have that accessible.
I think the big message here, Anita, is that nobody is immune to this happening to them. And some are more susceptible because of what you said, because of the biological and the physiological and genetics that may have faster triggers in this space. But as we wrap up, let folks know how they can find you. And I'll be honored to have you back in the future to talk more about the Way Back In and Grateful House and the work that you guys are doing. Let folks know how they can find you if they are either challenged, know someone that is, or they may want to support you guys, or they may want to get involved as a volunteer.
Well, thank you. That is wonderful. Yes, so Way Back In is one of about 30 agencies here in the state of Illinois who provide outreach and or treatment services to persons affected by gambling use disorders and their families. You can reach the Way Back In by going to either our website at waybackin.org or calling us at 708-345-8422. But then for anywhere else, again, 1-800-GAMBLER will direct you to either our agency or any of the other agencies available throughout the state of Illinois, as well as areyoureallywinning.com, and that website is specifically based for Illinois. You can find treatment options. You can find a research study I was talking about on there, and there's also a screener you can take on there if you're ever saying, like, where am I at? Do I have a problem? There's a very short screener on there. You can go on the website, kind of start with a screener, and then get additional help if you need it.
That's fantastic. Anita, thank you so much for being with us this morning and helping us talk about a challenging but very, very realistic and certainly not new issue. As you said, this has been going on for a long, long time, but we have the resources if we lean into this to have an impact on treating it, both the preventative side, both sides of the issue in terms of prevention and treatment. So Anita Panduor, who is the executive director of the Way Back In and one of those other local folks here in the Chicagoland area committed to helping to make lives better. So Anita, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you. Really appreciate having me.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.
Deep breath on that one, y'all. That would definitely line itself up with, take a deep breath and make your life better because they definitely are putting the work in there. And thank you guys as listeners for giving us a space to talk about this. And as I said, we talk about both sides of it or two of the sides of it, the addiction side and then the other side, which is looking at it from the political, the addiction, social side and medical side. And then we talk about it from the revenue side and how there are some opportunities with responsible legislation here in the state of Illinois. And in the 7:30 hour, we'll be talking to Representative Edgar Gonzalez about that. And I'm going to get his points on, or put some points to him about the addiction part of this. So don't worry. We'll talk about that from as broad of a perspective as we can. That being said, let's take a 30-second break, Henry. All right, guys, the number is 773-763-9278. Take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Progressives, welcome back to Choose Views. Check out Anita Panduor, who's doing the work locally on a topic that's a national issue that definitely affects us here in the state of Illinois. Didn't have enough time to get into the conversation about funding, but she made a very clear point about why this is an issue that on a national level, funding for prevention and treatment is incredibly important with our current administration. And I have to say this as I guess I'll just make it as plain as I can in terms of throwing some shade at Donald Trump. But, sorry, guys. They don't get it. They just don't. This is an issue that we have to work around and try to find money when we shouldn't have to when it comes to treating our citizenry. That's me just saying what I have to say on this. But I do have to say the other side of this is the dude known as Donald Trump, he tanked the casino. And you folks out there who are MAGA supporters and Trump supporters and all that, he tanked the casino. Anita just said how much money gambling makes. Henry and I could go get, a small warehouse and get some slot machines in there and some, reasonable food and drinks catered in. Blah, blah, blah. And we could have a casino, provided we have the proper licensing and all the other things, and make that thing work. Donald Trump tanked the casino, and y'all elected him as your president. Come on, people. Think about that. He tanked the casino. Anita said billions of dollars go into gambling of all sorts. But this dude, who people wanted as their president, tanked a casino. And you still voted for him. And he wants to take your daughters and your nieces and your sisters and your moms into a private room and do whatever he thinks he's entitled to do. And the list goes on. And y'all voted for him. Golly. All right. Coming up is our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Shout out to James Malone in Pennsylvania, who won a Lancaster County's 36th Senate District special election. So we can win state legislative seats when we lean in and we support the people who have the right vision, the right views, the right ideas. And this is one that we have to check in our column. And this is the type of energy that we need in other elections in these three House seats in New York and down in Florida. So, and also one of the things I didn't want to slip through and forget, up in Wisconsin, the Supreme Court right now with that election is taking place. Get behind Judge Crawford. She's running there. So we got a lot of work in different areas, and I apologize if I don't give you guys a combination of the different races and the numbers and the emails of how to reach folks and support them. But here's a homework assignment I'll give you when I can't fill in this void. Just Google, progressive races, Democratic folks that are running for office. See what's out there. I mean, I try my best to provide you with what's out there, but if I miss something, and I know I'm going to, this is where we have to do the work. This is where we have to sometimes pick up, the baton ourselves and go, I'm going to run this leg of the race. So I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying I want to keep you guys abreast of these various elections as best we can. So do your part as well. And that's a soft homework assignment from Uncle Richard. There you go. And also, I'm getting a little bit of pushback from some people saying that using the words responsible gambling is almost oxymoronic. Okay. So is it not good to use? And I've had a couple people ask the question, is it not good to use responsible drinking? Both are legal, but both can become addictive and obsessive. Responsible drinking. Gambling. I mean, I get it. I'm not fighting those of you who sent me text messages in that space. I'm just saying that, we have to stop being critical of folks trying to succeed at something. to make things better? How about leaning in to help? The same energy you spend being critical about something, maybe spend that energy saying, hey, Anita, let me raise my hand. How can I help you guys out over there? That's what I'd rather see from us as progressive liberal Democrats. You can correct me all day long. I got big, broad shoulders. I can handle it. And relatively thick skin. I tear up because I get moved emotionally, but don't take that the wrong way. My point is, spend that energy looking to help the organizations that are trying to help people with a challenge. That's what we have to do. That's if there's some luggage we carry around, if we call ourselves truly progressive liberal Democrats, it's the luggage of, I'm going to do my part to help first rather than be just critical because I can be critical. Anyhow, I'll leave that alone. Let's go to our good man and our good friend, Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 from the great state of Indiana. I mean, right now you might not be calling your home state a great state.
Not at all. Not at all. Hey, good morning. Good morning, Ann. And
good morning, Diana.
Happy anniversary to my lovely wife, okay?
That's right, man. See, you got that out of the way early.
Our anniversary.
Hey, congratulations, y'all. That's fantastic.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
All right.
It's a good life, so, yeah. Hey, Can I throw a responsible ism in there?
Please
How about
do.
Responsible cussing? Responsible cussing.
Listen, Kurt, check this out. My sister Linda is tough as nails. And, she said to me over the years, she doesn't just irresponsibly curse. She curses. She says every now and again, MFer and GD and F and the S word are all appropriate when you need to make a point, because people will listen when they don't expect it to come out of your mouth and you surprise them with it. She says, people go, my God, I can't believe. And she's a deaconess at their church in Virginia. And so every now and again, but she's from the south side of Chicago. Every now and again, she'll drop one on somebody in the parking lot of the church when they're not acting right. So I would say that's probably responsible cussing.
Yeah. Love her, never met her. I love her, never met her.
Oh,
and one more thing about Anita's little segment there. She was talking about how those who embezzle money keep doing it because they don't see that there's a crime being committed, I think is kind of what she said. Does that apply to guys who use monies to create a cover-up? Is that the same kind of thought process there?
There's some, and she did package it by saying that in some cases. But to that end, your point is well taken. You mean those guys who run around and go, well, I didn't do it. Right. That's not me. I don't know anything about that. I'm not really quite sure what
that's not correct.
And then we find out that there's a paper trail that said not only did you commit the act of having the engagement with this woman, who I will call a woman and not a sex worker or a porn star. I'm gonna call her a woman because that's what she is in my mind. Respect to her womanhood first. What she does is not who she is. However, when it was found out that not only did you have an engagement with this woman, which is your business, you lied about that. And then when folks found out that you lied about that, then you decided to open up your checkbook on a couple of occasions.
Right.
With money that we don't know where it came from. Maybe it was embezzled money or not money that you didn't pay in taxes while folks are out here struggling. And you wrote a check to that woman to say, no, you can't talk about this. And then when we found it out, and some very intelligent, well-educated people decided to put together a case that showed that you did that, you once again said, nope, that wasn't me. I didn't do that. But the signature that you criticize a former president for using, i.e. signing something, you said was your signature, i.e. on the checks that you wrote. Oh, by the way, outside of and inside of the White House.
Do you think he used an auto pen for that?
I don't know. maybe that would be his way of invalidating, if that's the right way of saying it, the check, because it was an auto pen.
Yeah, I don't know. This has been going, that's what's happening right now, man. Deny. Make excuses. Don't believe what you say.
Keep telling the lie. Kurt, here's one for you. You've never met him, but I trust me, he's a flamethrower. Could you imagine if you, my good friend and cousin and co-radio personality Eric Grant and I were elected to, we were in the House of Representatives right now? Could you imagine? I would. Jared Moskowitz, Representative Moskowitz, and Representative Raskin would have three other dudes, and Representative Crockett and Representative ALC to roll with right now. Could you imagine if the three of us were added to the team? Oh my goodness.
I love the humor, and I wish that would happen. I wish we could do something like that, but they'll never do that. But and I love the humor that they created there, but the seriousness of this matter, and just the violation of Article 1 of the Constitution that this administration continues to do. And those who are not aware, Article 1 of the Constitution is establishing Congress as our legislative branch. They're the ones that make the laws. They're the ones that are allowed to do away with departments or create departments, or this guy's been breaking the law and violating the Constitution from the get-go, from day one. Yep. And we're not focusing on that. We're sitting there. I mean, I don't know, Richard. It is so frustrating.
Well, I would
see what's happening in our party is just.
I'm going to push back a little bit with you on that. Not that they're not doing anything, and it's not to our satisfaction. Let's put it that way. Because I would think it's not completely accurate for us to say that they're not doing anything. What they're doing or not doing is not to our satisfaction. We want them to do more, to fight harder, to be more bold in their fighting, and to be less worried about what people are going to say about them fighting. And it would be, I think, irresponsible for any of us in any capacity to say that they're not, and then the collective is not. I'm unsatisfied with what Leader Jeffries, the presentation of his dissatisfaction. I want him to walk. This is what I want. And I know you want the same thing. I want Representative Jeffries, Minority Leader Jeffries, to walk into a press conference and kick over the podium. I want that. But that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. It should, and he would catch no heat from it. He'd catch the heat from Fox News. He'd catch the heat from, those on the right saying he's an angry black man. Heck yeah, he's angry. And show it. Yeah. That's what you and I want to see. And that's why I said, can you imagine if you, me, and Eric Grant were rolling with Jared, Jamie, AOC, and Jasmine? And that we want that. So we have to be mindful and say they're not doing it to our satisfaction. They should be doing more. And I strongly agree with you when I hear you say here on the show, but also on your social media posts, that the Dems have got to step up their game. They cannot be playing soft. They have to fight harder. It's not that they're not fighting at all. There's not enough of them fighting harder and hard enough. They got 215. You and I have talked about this. All 215 need to be yelling at the top of their lungs every single doggone day. That's what Kurt and I want to see. Yeah. Am I wrong about that?
I guess no. You're exactly right. That's what I want. And I guess when I say they're not doing anything, this is when I say that, it's not just about right now. It goes all the way back to his first term. Okay. Remember, I think it was in 2017 when he shared documents. Classified documents with some Russian government representatives in the Oval Office. And the CIA caught wind of that, and we didn't do anything about it then. So I guess when I say that, it's a long time frame of them not doing anything. there has been ample opportunity over and over and over again to throw this guy in jail and to rid him of the stain that he's put on our country. And we have failed on epic levels time and time again. And we continue to see it today. And now we have a Democratic Party who thinks, a lot of them, I should say. I shouldn't say everyone. My wife always criticizes me when I say those words. But there's quite a few people in our party who think that we need to lean more to the center.
I got
or lean
text.
more to the right.
Did you?
Or we should have more empathy for. I mean.
No, Kurt. Listen. No. Here's the thing, man. And this is where you and I just. Like, this is why I just got a great text from one of our wonderful people, Michelle. We'd burn the place down, not literally, but we'd burn down the craziness. And we would be of the mindset going back to sports. Let me help you guys understand a little bit how Kurt and I roll in this space. For those of you who played sports, and I use sports as an analogy because it's relevant here. And I mean this for men and women, whatever sports you played. If you play a team sport, and you could be in an individual sport like golf or tennis, but you're part of a team if you played collegiately or in high school, and the list goes on. Mm-hmm. You have individual events in track and field, but you're part of the team. But if you play a sport that we've all looked at as sort of the team sports, football, baseball, basketball, soccer, and nobody get upset if I miss some of the others. If you're part of a team, one of the ways that you win championships, if you guys want to challenge me on this, listen to some of the clips of Michael Jordan, of the clips about Magic Johnson, the clips about Larry Bird, just to use basketball as an analogy. Those who are Bears fans, of Walter Payton, Tom Brady. I mean, the list goes on. What we're saying is, as folks who participated in sports, when members of your team are dragging their behind, you got to be the one as a teammate to kick them in the proverbial behind. Henry's a musician in his other life. If a member of his band ain't pulling their weight, Henry's responsible to that band to say, come on, man, practice a little bit more. Rather than going out to the bars, take your behind to the studio and practice. So
Henry's in a band?
Yeah, I'm putting this business in the
okay,
so don't get on me about that. Well, and Henry's looking at me like,
here's an analogy there that Henry will relate to. Just and anybody, let's say you go to a club and there's a band playing up there. Have you ever seen a band who has a rogue drummer? A dude that's in his own world. The rest of the musicians are standing there playing their stuff and they're looking around and this guy's going off and he's not. That's what's happening. We have a bunch of rogue drummers in our Democratic Party right now. Yeah. They're not playing the same tune we are. And so there's another analogy for you. So
that's why I'm saying that I keep bringing this back to Jeffries and Schumer at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And when I had when we had Sarah on and we talked about this, at the end of the day, if that's where Schumer was when it comes to and guys, I know I've said this and I'm going to say it again because you can tell I probably believe in it. If that's where Schumer was on this CR vote, then he should have come out and gotten a quote ahead of it rather than letting it ease up on him. And now he's that to me is weak leadership in this moment and in many others. And when it comes to Jeffries, same thing applies. Stop talking about we're going to work on this together. Nobody wants to hear that anymore, Representative Jeffries. We want to see you walk into a press conference and kick the damn lectern over and say, Republicans, you're on public notice. We know we don't have all the numbers, but we're done with you. That's what America, the progressive liberal democratic voices want to hear. They want to see that and then have his caucus be doing the same thing, to go back to your point about the lone drummer. All the individuals doing it, running around like herding, this proverbial, hard to herd the cats. No. Capital steps, 215 en masse. House of Representative members, we're not going to take this anymore, and here's what we're going to do, and here's what's going to benefit. And that's all you're saying. Yeah. You're just you're in a space where you can cuss about it on social media.
Which I try not to do because you get banned or I get picked on more so. But, what people don't understand about the CR or budget resolution or whatever is that what Schumer did was not just he went against the Democratic Party, but he took their ability to filibuster it. He took their ability away to be able to debate this because now it's done and Republicans have 100% control and they can do whatever they want. So
plus they know
people just don't understand.
Plus they also know, Kurt, that he's going to, for lack of better words, cave or acquiesce when it comes to cutting the hard nut. And that's the part that is sickening. And I know it drives you up a blankety blank wall that you're that leadership is tipping its hand. Listen, I don't have a problem with AOC going, and in fact, I'm an advocate. So let me say this the right way. I'm an advocate of our leaders going to places and speaking their mind. But I think that the country, those of us who voted for Vice President Harris and those of us who are supporting this effort would be like, yes, this is what we want. If the visuals, the optics, and the advantage that they can use of that were something that the country got to see. Make some noise, the media will follow, and then take that collective message, Speaker Jeffries and Leader Schumer, so that the American people can go, yeah, these guys they've pulled it together now. They're ready to fight and fight hard. And that's what's missing. It just is. I agree with you 1,000%, man. This is where the Dems are dropping the ball.
And it's all over. It's not just a national level. It's on the local and state level too. It's absolutely depressing for me to see what's going on those levels in the Democratic Party, and it's real. And at a time when we should be unified and fighting as one party against tyranny and the other party, we're taking our own paths. We're creating 15,000 different roads to walk down, and it's hard to stay positive about the future of our party when I see what the present is giving us and what the past has given us. So, but I don't have any other choice. I mean, the stupidity of the GOP is a national threat.
Yeah,
they're a threat to national security, I should say. Period.
They're an international threat.
This administration is more. They are concerned about loyalty more than they are concerned about competency. Okay, this is who they are. Are you loyal to me and to what I believe in, or are you competent to do your job? I mean, let's face what's going on right now, and you've talked plenty about it, and you'll continue to talk about it, which you should. But I mean, and I hate about what-isms too, but I think we need to use more of them because we spent 9 years now talking about Hillary's emails. We spent over 4 years talking about Hunter's laptop. That was turned into a blind guy, and then Rudy Giuliani got his hands on it. I mean, come on. We're going to believe that story, but then we're going to say, well, I don't remember a conversation from a week ago. Well, if you can't remember a conversation from a week ago, maybe you aren't fit to serve the position that you've been put into, okay? I mean, it's.
Or I'm going to defer to what Tulsi Gabbard said. I'm going to defer to the blah blah. But to that end, let me stay on your point about what the Dems have to do. The Dems and listen. This is where I'm like, you guys do you not get it? They should have all been standing together and saying at a press conference since this dropped and every day since then, America, this is what you voted for. And had cuts of the interviews and the recordings playing right there during that press conference. And I don't get why this is where, again, I think it's a leadership issue. I think it's a Schumer and Jeffries and maybe some of the folk, the Ken Martins of the world with the DNC should be sitting down going, okay, let's load it up. Let's be ready. And these rapid action or whatever these things are called should be like, okay, boom, there's another one. There's another one. And just laying on with this. And they're not doing it. That part is the frustrating part. Also the frustrating part, Kurt, is that we have a limited amount of time today, and we have to wrap up this.
Yeah, I know you're busy.
Hey man, having you on is dangerous because.
Don't you think I know that?
I have Henry. Henry has his right hand poised for the delete button.
Henry acts like he likes me, but he wants to tell me to shut up.
No,
so
Henry
I love you, Henry.
Henry wants you to curse so he can hit that button to make sure it's still working. Oh man, Kurt Mullen, Hoosier Blue 63. It is always great to have you on Wednesday mornings because we chop it up and do what we got to do. Thank you, brother, for being.
It's always great being here, buddy.
All right, man. Listen, good to hear your voice.
I appreciate you.
Happy anniversary to you and Diana.
Hey, thank you very much, and you have a great day.
Keep
it clean now, Richard. Come on, keep it clean.
You know I'm going to do it. All right, man. Do well.
Talk to you later, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Right. Bye-bye.
Kurt and I were ready to cuss, y'all. And the text that I'm getting from everybody about, yeah, go ahead and run. We want you to run. We want you to be there to knock over some tables. I will, but right now we got to take a break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. I see we have some folks on hold. We will get to you, I promise, before we wrap up the show. Henry, I've got people, well, I have a question for you. Do you think I'm gaslighting our audience by saying that we have to ask for more from Schumer and Jeffries and that we have no tools in our toolbox because of what happened at the November 5th election?
No, not at all.
Okay. Henry's not biased toward me. He will call me out if he thinks I'm BSing y'all.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think so in this case at all.
I think we have to, even though we didn't win the election, that doesn't mean and we know who folks voted for and why. We still have to fight. Would we just lay down and go, okay, well, nothing to do? Okay. Anyhow, I thought I'd interject that. All right. We talked earlier with Anita Pandur about one side of the conversation around gambling addiction, and prevention of that. And I said in that segment that we were going to talk also about the legislative side of that conversation and where we are. And with us this morning is none other than Representative Edgar Gonzalez Jr. From, the 21st District here in Chicago. So welcome to the show, Representative Gonzalez. And I know people love to just probably call you Junior every now and again. Am I right or wrong about that?
Ever since high school, and I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Well, good to be with you this morning and good to have you on the show. Representative Gonzalez, tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about your district and your ascent to where you are now as a state leader.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it. Well, I started when I was 23. I'm 28 right now, so it's been 5 years in the General Assembly in the House of Representatives. I started off with the 21st House District, and I represent the 23rd House District as of 2023. And when I started, I was the youngest Democrat, youngest Latino in state history to ever serve as a state representative. So, it was a lot of firsts, and it was right after college. 2019, May, I graduated. 2020, January, I was inaugurated and sworn in and ran out right for this position. So, I've been very blessed. And, now actually the 5-year mark after I started, the Speaker of the House asked me to be a member of his leadership team. And I'm also the Assistant Majority Leader and Floor Whip in the House of Representatives. So I'm very blessed, and, that's where I'm at right now.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, you're also a graduate of Harvard, so you must be one of those elites that the left likes to talk about and try to throw under the bus all the time, because you went to a good college.
I think the right is talking more about it.
I'm sorry, the right is talking. I apologize. Thank you, Representative. Yeah, but I mean, congratulations on your educational prowess and a graduate of Whitney Young High School here in Chicago. And you've been a really strong person that's been fighting for unions as well, and particularly with the work that your father has done and over the years. And so you definitely understand what's happening right now and why we've got to make sure that we're standing up for each other on all levels. So we appreciate that type of representation. One of the current – go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, of course. I mean, my dad is in the union right now. My mom was in the union. Her union was actually down here in Springfield advocating for Tier 2, pension reform. So, it's always very clear in my mind. My district is all working class. So, it's both necessity and it's because, it's because I want to be able to represent all these working people.
So let's talk a little bit about the conversation around iGambling and the legalization of iGambling. That's been one of the items that's been on your desk, and you most certainly have leaned into this conversation. Tell us where you are in that space.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it was just a week or so ago that we presented in the House Gaming Committee here down in Springfield. So we had folks from all across town, all across Illinois. You had people who were advocating against it, people who represent the video game terminals, the casinos, and small bars and restaurants who, benefit from the revenue that the video game terminals or VGTs, the type of revenue that they get. But then we also have proponents, people who represent the Sports Betting Alliance, people like FanDuel and DraftKings who already have the infrastructure in some other states. And actually some of the opponents in Illinois are proponents in other states. And so while we were having, a very lively discussion of, the benefits of it, I think in the end there were a few points that kept getting re-emphasized. One is just the tremendous tax revenue that we could potentially be getting if we were to legalize iGaming. That's one. Two, given the fact that, we can't be relying on the federal government for money right now. I mean, everybody's just on edge waiting for Trump to just pull the plug. We can't be relying on this, so we have to make our own way. I think that some folks want to say how, addicting iGaming can be. But if they're using that argument for iGaming, the same arguments can be used for sports betting, for casinos, for VGTs. And if they're not planning on banning those and putting limits on how much people can bet there, I don't think the logic can necessarily be extended. Plus, at the same time, there are already operators in Illinois, illegal operators, who have operated iGaming terminals online, and you could download it right now. And so it's about regulating this illegal market, and people are already doing it. People are already engaged on this. They use VPNs to, try other sites in other states. But even then, there's some operators that, don't use a VPN, and you can use it right now. And it's about making sure that we regulate and we tax and actually get something out of it. So
and thank you for that. There are some that say that the access is the issue, and that and I think one of the quotes from the Illinois Gaming Machine Operators Association say that the putting online casino gambling at people's fingertips of millions of people on their cell phones and other devices is irresponsible. And so, what are your thoughts in that space?
I think, like I mentioned, for example, with sports betting, people can already have access to it. I think one of the fact sheets that they had provided during the committee, it said that kids can have access to this. I'm like, well, if your kids are close to your phone, they can have access to it anyway. And it's not just these types of apps. They can go on Amazon and make a bunch of purchases, and then you're starting with your credit card. I mean, it's not like this is something new. But at the same time, I think that the having access to it and the easy accessibility because everybody's on their phone, quote unquote. I think that one of the examples I used in the gaming committee was that many people said that after ebooks were introduced, that traditional bookstores were just going to hit the ground bottom, and we're going to completely get wiped out. And look, right now, bookstores are actually having a resurgence because people go on, they get the books on maybe online, they like it and they buy the physical book, or because of TikTok, they appreciate the live experience, and it's about this live experience. Like I go to the casino myself, I have poker games with my friends, and I still go to the casino, because I want to go for the live experience. In the same way, people who might engage in the iGaming world, if it were to be legalized, it's the same thing. It's a matter of making sure that we're practicing responsible gaming, but at the same time, making sure that we're regulating those operators who might be targeting the most vulnerable of players.
So the phrase that I've used today in a previous segment, and one that you sort of just leaned into, is responsible gambling or responsible gaming. What does that look like in the real world? And when I say that, given the fact that, well, let me let you answer that question. Let me stop there. What does it look like in your eyes, responsible gambling and or responsible gaming?
Yeah, I think that actually just 1 or 2 weeks ago, I think John Oliver put it on Last Week Tonight on one episode, and he was talking about sports betting and just responsible gambling, responsible gaming, in terms of making sure that you set limits for yourself, that these operators are not specifically targeting people who might be vulnerable, to addiction, to providing those resources, if and when a gambling issue might occur amongst different players. I mean, every player is different. Every player has different, operating, income that they can use, and so it's a matter of tailoring it to the experience of each player. Like myself, I'm not going to go to the 5-10 tables at the casino because that is not on my budget. I go to the 1-3 tables in the poker rooms. It's something similar. It's a matter of understanding the players and understanding their limits and making sure that we help them with those limits, that's the casinos, VGTs, operators in other states. They've already been doing this. It's a matter of them just providing the infrastructure and bringing it to the line.
Some people say that just because you've been doing something doesn't mean you continue to do it if there's an issue with it, and I tend to be of that mindset. That is there more? Do we need to listen? I said earlier today in the show that I wanted to try to strike a balance between the social impact and the addiction part of this alongside of the political impact and the revenue part that you spoke of at the beginning of the segment. So let's just touch on that for a little bit before we wrap up. What more can be done? Because I think that at the end of the day, people are going to go and gamble at casinos and other places. People are going to play cards and gamble in that regard. People are going to use the online sources that are there to gamble. We already know with regard to, as you said earlier, with regard to sports gambling. I guess people are going to go to the racetracks. We know that that's there. So I'm of the mindset of how do we create an environment? How do we foster an environment, further an environment where responsibility is on all fronts? And what I mean by that is the gambler, him or herself, the institutional piece, which would be you guys as legislators, and then the industry side, which would be, for example, the machine operators and other parts of this, to make it so that there's not such a heavy burden on the organizations that then have to deal with the fallout of the addictive part of this. And that's where I think that's the missing part, is where those 4 or 5 entities are not coming together to say we can do all of this if we're responsible about it.
No, for sure. I consider myself, as I'm both a legislator, but I'm also a consumer. And so, but at the same time, too, considering that, they say that young men in their 20s or their early 20s, that they're the ones who are most acceptable to this type of, gaming irresponsible gaming. That is the last thing that I want. And, I think that young men are having it hard as is, in terms of finding like good, stable employment. And, because of that, I think that, that's why we have the administration that we have right now, because there's a certain level of loss, a certain level of pessimism that has allowed certain administrations to come in, because people are looking for an easy answer. And I think that because of people are looking for an easy answer, they might turn to something like this. But I think that is an incomplete picture, because in the end, like I mentioned, as a legislator, obviously we want to make sure that we don't push people into that, into those spaces. I mean, people said that, after that we legalized cannabis in Illinois in 2019, that everybody was going to start using weed. That was one of the things that the advocates the opponents had said. And what happened? For the most part, people kept using it at the same levels because they were already doing it, and they were just, skirting the law. And I think that people, want to fearmonger in a way, say that, we might see the same things right now. But, if you're already susceptible to it, if you're already open to iGaming in the first place, you're probably just going to have the same customer base. But at least now it's regulated. And that's the part where the legislators come in and making sure that we're regulating any illegal operators who are using, their operations in a way to target vulnerable players. But then on the consumer side, on my end, it's about personal responsibility, and it's not on legislators fully. For government, for businesses, corporations, anybody, to make sure to regulate how players play. But in order to foster the public good, we need to all come together and be a part of this conversation. The thing is, I've been waiting for this conversation for the last 2 or 3 years, and until now, because the bill was posted to committee, they would actually have people come up to me and start negotiating and start talking. I think there's a pathway, and especially, like I said, given the financial boon that this will be to the states, there's a pathway to it, but we need all to come together.
So let's get the illegality out of it and make sure, to your point, that we get the illegality out of it, that it is regulated in a way that we know that those pieces are not furthering a problem when it comes to addiction. And then the other part that I would say to you, that I would hope that you have rolled into your conversation, is when there are organizations out here like the folks I spoke with earlier, Anita Pandior, who's with the Way Back In, that deal with the after effect of addictions at large, but specifically in gambling, that there are legislators who are willing to say, if we're going to have a regulated category and we're going to work in the space, we also need to be mindful, and it's a budget conversation, that we are there to help those organizations that are on the ground dealing with some of the impact of gambling and the addictions that can come with that. I think that that's a fair ask, don't you?
Oh, for sure. I think that, there's a lot of people who, like I said, in the tail end, like what we did with cannabis is that a lot of that money, the tax revenue that came from cannabis, we threw into violence prevention organizations. And so I think that, it's not necessarily that the same thing is going to happen, but it's definitely going to be a part of the conversation. But before we get to that conversation, the opponents actually need to sit at the table.
Yeah, agreed. Representative Edgar Gonzalez Jr. with us this morning, representing the 21st District. Representative, how can folks find you? How can they get involved? How can they call you and yell at you, or call you and say, "Hey, doing a good job"?
The things I use the most: Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. They all have the same handle @Rep Edgar Gonzalez. Anything people want to learn more about, or just give me a message, send it on there. I manage my social media myself.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with us, Representative. Keep the hard work going. We'll have you back to talk about this in the future because it's an ongoing conversation. We want to see where the legislation goes, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye now. So there you go, guys. A couple different sides of this conversation, one on the legislative side and one on the social side. That's why I said that the parties involved, Henry, got to talk. All of them have to say, listen, if we're going to have this legislation and we're going to get the legality out, which I believe in strongly, then we still have to make sure that the folks that are on the ground, like Anita, have the support that they need when things slip through the cracks. That's just how we have to be. That's the beauty and the responsibility of being a progressive liberal Democrat. We have the responsibility. Going back to what some of the things that Kurt said, we got to look at all of this and say, all right, how are we going to solve this problem? All right, let's grab this call. We told Donna. Thank you for holding, Donna. It's been a crazy, busy morning. Thank you for.
I know, Richard. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great.
As always, every morning is busy with you. That's for sure.
We tried, dear.
Look,
what's going on?
I'm concerned because now T. Rump is talking about overhauling the election process.
Yeah, I saw that.
See, I remember what he said. If you vote for me, you'll never have to vote again. So I pay close attention to everything he says when he's projecting and when he's just talking. And, all of this, everything he's doing right now is breakneck speed because they're trying to get everything in place because they know that they tampered with the election.
Yeah.
They know they didn't win it legitimately. They know it.
When I saw that, yeah. Huh? No, and Donna, sorry about that. When I saw that, and actually, my new colleagues, Jason Easley and Sarah Jones, posted a great article that you guys should read in Politica's USA on this very subject. It's toothless, this executive order, but that doesn't mean we don't pay attention. Let me be clear.
I'm not talking about the executive order. It's what he's doing as far as dismantling things and pulling things apart. It's not permanent, but some things you can tear it down quicker than you can put things back together.
Absolutely.
And the fact that he's moving at breakneck speed, plus there's some audits going on around the country right now. I mean, there's nothing, we can't change the fact that he's in there. But we have to have proof positive that they tamper with the election, because if they get away with this, I mean, it won't be any point in having future elections, because once they get away with this, it's basically a fait accompli. And what I'm upset about the Democratic Party right now, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. The Dems that are in charge are too old. They're tired. They're still using the same tactics from 2016, 2015, 2017. We have to get in the present day. You can't do the same thing you did in the previous election and expect it to work now. We got to get current, and they need to step aside and let the younger ones move forward, because
as long as we have to remember with this is I've always been careful when it comes to younger. Younger doesn't mean better. It just means different.
Oh, I know that. I'm talking about energy now.
But energy, because I know some folks that are chronologically my age or older that have as much energy as. So I'm not correcting you, Donna. Don't take that wrong. You or anybody that's listening. We do need to change. We do need to change the energy. And if that requires,
and we need to change the tactics too.
And if that requires age being a part of the conversation, then that's got to be included. And but ultimately, what has to change is your first point, Donna, and that's the tactics. The tactics have to change.
That's what I'm talking about. We got to get busy because, see, and I'm 69. I'm not against elderly people, but see, elderly people don't know the technology as fluidly.
I'd be careful.
The younger group.
Okay, right. Fair. I like how you tail that off when saying as fluidly.
I'm strategically trying to word it properly.
I know what you mean. And Donna, I'm with you.
What I'm saying is we got to get serious about this, Richard, because look, every day, and people are frustrated. The reason you don't see a lot of excitement from the public is because the politicians on our side, what they can do is remember what they did the whole time Biden and Harris was in there? They were interfering, causing all kind of hold-ups and stand-ups and interference the whole time.
Yeah.
We need to be doing that too.
Yep, I've said that.
We need to do everything we can to block their plans, even though we can't change it numerically because we don't have the numbers.
Stop trying to fight the fight. Is that the problem, and I said this earlier in the weekend last week, the Dems have got to stop fighting the fights that they think they can only win. Fight all of them.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, fight them all. And irrespective of the outcome, I think that the American voting public, the ones that sat on the side particularly, are ones that are saying, in part, that and it shouldn't be this way, but again, this goes back to what you said about fighting with different tactics. They have to be willing to say, we got to at least try it. If it doesn't work, it's not that it's failed. It just didn't work this time. We'll try something else. But we got to be doing some things that are different.
And not only that, we'll get the will of the people. If they see the politicians coming to the Republican rallies because the Republicans are scared now, they're afraid because they know that they don't have to worry about being primary. They can be voted out now.
Yeah.
And the idea is get out there in the street with the people.
I begged Representative
Get like Bernie and AOC. Get out there and have rallies.
Like I said to Representative Nikki Brzezinski when she was on a little over a week ago, I darn near begged her to go back to the House of Representatives, her members in the caucus. I pretty much begged her. I said, Representative, we got your back. Please go back and tell your colleagues on the left, not your colleagues on the right, your colleagues on the left that we got you. We need you to fight and make noise. If you do that, people will jump on board. They're begging you for it. I hope I got that message across. I'm going to reach out to her again. We're going to have her back and other congressional folks. I am on a mission, Donna, to get after every single one of our representatives.
I'll get out there in the street, but I want some politicians out there with me because I have to tell you, we can make noise, and if we show up, other people will come.
It's true.
That's the point. We gotta take some, like you said, turn some tables over, knock some chairs off, come in the room and make a disturbance. And when they have these gatherings and these political forums, the Dems need to stand up and walk out together. They need to be in unison. Yeah. And this little debacle that they did with this Texas, this guy with this call, that's just negligence. We can't stand for it.
Well, and that's why I've said, and Donna, thanks for your call. We got to wrap up the show today. Thanks for holding, and thanks for your
I'll talk with you.
Very well.
Have a good one.
You too, Donna.
Bye-bye.
Great points from everybody. Finish line is right around the corner. Henry's going to start playing music in a moment. Thanks, Donna, for holding, and thanks for your contribution. Thanks to our guests for being with us this morning, Representative Gonzalez, Anita Pandior from, the way back end. Guys, help these folks out that are with parts of local organizations. Tomorrow, we've got our good friend Cliff Cash who's going to be with us, bringing some humor. And we also will be talking with our good friend Dan Summons from Blessings in a Backpack. Henry, my goodness, y'all. Take a deep breath, progressives, and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.